It is Juneteenth. It is day 151 of the Trump presidency. It is also the official beginning of World War III. To those who celebrate, cheers. Okay, let's get into it. Things have obviously, as I'm sure many of you already know, drastically accelerated between Iran and Israel. It sounds like Iran has bombed a hospital in Israel, which will be, more reasoning behind the acceleration. There has been back and forth killing of civilians since this started. Trump is officially saying and stating that it is necessary to bomb the Fordo nuclear facility in Iran, which is apparently housed inside of a mountainside. And so they are going back and forth between using a Moab, which is like a 30,000 ton bomb. It's, I think, the biggest bomb known or in existence currently, or a tactical nuke, because Trump has concerns that the Moab won't do enough. Iran has explicitly stated that if the United States does get involved in this, there will be retaliation. There is a lot of chatter about retaliation also potentially meaning activating sleeper cells here in the United States for terrorist events. There is also a lot of chatter of people saying that there will be false flag events planted by Israel, also maybe the United States, in order to justify this. It is extremely messy right now. And there's also a lot of concerns, very valid concerns, even outside of loss of human life, even outside of loss of worldwide stability, even outside of all of the economic ramifications. What are the ramifications of dropping a bomb on a nuclear facility for the environment? Like, what happens? Is there going to be a secondary nuclear explosion? Is that stuff going to get into the groundwater? I don't know, man. It's not looking good for humankind right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. We're not having a very good time. And I had a video go viral on TikTok today where I talked about the fact that we are being led into a world war by 4 elderly men who are all going to die soon. Putin, Trump, the Ayatollah, and Netanyahu are all in their 70s or 80s in some cases. And both Putin and Trump are rumored to have fairly severe health issues. In fact, close-ups of Trump's hands recently revealed that they're covered in makeup. And there's some speculation. There was that picture that surfaced of him. It looks like he's wearing a catheter. I don't know if he's okay. I don't know, man. It's just not, it's not really who you want driving the bus when you're going around hairpin turns. Do you know what I'm saying? I think we want people who are invested in life and not on their way out. Certainly not people that are suffering from conditions like narcissistic personality disorder and they're ill and dying. That is a very bad combination for a world leader. Initially, Israel was saying that they will receive an answer within the next 24 to 48 hours from the United States on whether or not they are officially going to drop this bomb. Now, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, the White House press secretary, is saying 2 weeks, up to 2 weeks. I think realistically it's going to happen this weekend. And I think the percentage of chance that it does happen is at least above 75. I think Trump coming out and saying that this needs to happen, I think what's maybe having him hesitate? Well, there's several things, okay? So first of all, as a lot of people have accurately pointed out, he's not supposed to do this without congressional approval. There is a bill on the floor to stop them from doing this. And I think it expires in 2 weeks. So if they can wait that out, then maybe there's not as much legal ramification. I really don't understand the legal side of this, so I apologize. But I will tell you, I don't think I need to tell you, I think you can just see that the Trump administration hasn't been particularly concerned with legality. You know, shoot first, ask questions later has been the policy. And I don't foresee that changing in this instance. I think that they would try to argue that this is something like some kind of an emergency situation, which it's not. It simply isn't. If Iran was, you know, actively creating nuclear weapons, which it sounds like they may have been working on getting the materials to do that, it's not like they're a week away from completion. And now we have set them back already by quite a large amount of time. And as people are accurately pointing out, this is the same talk track, like literally word for word, that George Bush used for weapons of mass destruction. And people are not falling for it. We don't want this war. We just don't. I know that the UK is right now trying to negotiate with Iran. But Iran, again, this 86-year-old man is the one calling the shots over there, man. He doesn't fucking care. Why does he care? He's going to die any second. He gets to go out in a blaze of glory because he's the one saying that no matter what, they won't surrender. They're not going to surrender anything, regardless, because he doesn't want to be pressured into a decision. So he's not going to supposedly surrender nukes, and he's not going to stop, like, unless Israel stops, he's not going to stop. And he's upping the ante also and saying that if the United States gets involved, that they're going to attack us as well. So, again, it's not looking good. And there's no one rational in a position of power that can really stop these 3 old idiots from doing this. Honestly, there's just not. We can talk about legal ramifications all day until the cows come home, but no one has given a fuck so far. Pardon my French. He's fighting off the charges left and right. He doesn't care. And I'm talking about Trump. So, if I had to make a prophecy, let me just say, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm telling you, it's not going to be good. But another thing I said on TikTok today is that I do believe that this is the fastest path to destroying the structures that are making us deeply unhappy. And, I think a lot of people want out of the systems that have been created by wealthy men that are keeping us from living our lives, honestly. I think we want more community. I think we want some sort of like guarantee of being cared for in this life, and more purpose. And I just think the way we're living, I don't think we want to do it anymore. Young men have completely stopped even trying because they can't get there quickly enough or at all. And, a lot of young people in general they're not interested in the 1950s blueprint because they saw how that turned out and they just don't want to. Nothing will kill that off faster than what's coming, honestly. It'll possibly shift us into financial crisis? I would think so. I mean, we're already bordering on a financial crisis. And by the way, Trump also, because the Fed just decided not to lower rates again, okay? Then Trump said, is there any way that he can make himself chair of the Fed? We're in an unprecedented time of having someone in office who has no like social decorum whatsoever and just does and says whatever the fuck he wants. That being said, again, at this point, I'm just looking at the cards on the table. So I'm looking at the upside of the cards, okay? The cards on the table are saying shit's about to go down. It's going to get really gnarly. And I think I would liken it to very extreme turbulence inside of an airplane for the next couple of years. But on the other side of it, I think a lot of questions will have been asked and answered about what the hell we're really doing here and what we want to be doing here. Because we don't have enough joy in our lives. And this rat race up bullshit mountain isn't cutting it anymore. And young people are giving up and they're not even having kids. So if we want that to change, we have to start taking care of each other, ourselves, and the earth, and we have to do things differently. And I think that we're not going to have a choice with what's coming. So it's intense to watch. And, I'm sure you are also getting waves of fear. A lot of us are. A lot of us are getting waves of fear, waves of sleeplessness. But again, we don't have any control over what's coming. This is more of a fated event, and it just is what it is. And we're just gonna, if there are ramifications to the earth because they've released nuclear materials into the earth, I guess the scientists better get to work figuring out how to undo that. I don't know what else to say. And I mean, Chernobyl is still there, right? It's not good, but it's still there. Okay. So on top of what's happening with this war, MAGA is also having a civil war within their little crew, okay? Really, honestly, most of the MAGA people, and this is my speculation, but also it seems to be a pretty clear divide. The people with Russian ties are heavily against the war in Iran. Putin has pretty close ties to Iran. He has a really strong trading relationship with Iran. They trade weapons. I think there's something to do with oil back and forth as well. They're close. Also, the BRICS partnership that they're trying to create, the competitor to the dollar, it's in Putin's best interest for Iran to be well. Also, China wants Iran to win. So China and Russia are both heavily on the side of Iran. And so who is speaking out against this for Iran and calling even more into question what's really going on? They're talking a lot about the Epstein files. They're talking a lot about Israel's connections to the Epstein files. They're talking a lot about AIPAC. They're bringing up these really controversial topics. And who I'm talking about is Tucker Carlson. Please go watch his interview with, the hell is that guy's? Ted Cruz. He rips Ted Cruz to shreds. It's insane. I'm sorry. I'm going to call myself out here. I reposted Tucker Carlson probably 5 times yesterday. It was really surreal. I'm sorry, I'm not saying I like Tucker Carlson. I do not. I guess it's an enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation. And the reality is the things that they're talking about need to be brought out. They need to be aired out. They need to be questioned. Why? And Ted Cruz, by the way, ate his own foot during this interview. It's a very awkward how poorly he responds, answers these questions. He doesn't even make any sense. He is tripping and stumbling over his words. He can't answer any of these very valid questions that Tucker Carlson is asking him about, why is there a foreign government lobbying our members of Congress and the House and the Senate, why is there a foreign government paying people in our government to do anything? And he can't answer. Anyways, okay, so Tucker Carlson is speaking out against this and the Trump administration. Steve Bannon is. Marjorie Taylor Greene is. Dave Smith, who is a podcaster who's very close to, oh, damn it, what is that guy's name? He's so popular. Oh my God, this is going to drive me crazy. I know you know who I'm talking about. It's like the number one. He's not even like fully officially MAGA. He's just like very close to it. He did endorse Trump, and now I can't think of his name. Anyways, basically a bunch of the right-wing podcasters, also Candace Owens, went on a very similar rant to what Tucker Carlson has been saying. They're saying that they regret voting for Trump. Oh, there's that other guy, Barstool Sports guy, who's an idiot. He's also saying it. There's like some pretty big MAGA influencers on TikTok now saying they regret voting for Trump and that they feel sold out by him. I appreciate that MAGA does not want a war. I do. Although they want a civil war really bad. They want a war against our own citizens. They want a war against Los Angeles, but they don't want a war against Iran. And on that note, haven't heard a peep about the burgeoning civil war in the country ever since this started. I don't think Trump can juggle that many wars. I think it'll be interesting to see if we do go to war with Iran, what happens with his ICE project and if he's able to maintain it. We'll see. Time will tell. But we don't have the money to deal with our own problems. And we don't have the money to go to war. So I don't know if they're just going to make money out of thin air like they usually do. Probably. And then the people that are for the war are people like Lindsey Graham, Bill O'Reilly, kind of the more old school Republicans that are, again, funded by AIPAC in many cases. And there are members of both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party that are being paid publicly. It's not a secret. You can go to opensecrets.com and look at who's received how much from AIPAC. They're all being paid. What's interesting to me is that Trump seems to be leaning more into his partnership with Israel and away from his partnership with Putin. And he's going to have to make a choice because they're diametrically opposed. And another thing that I said on TikTok this week is that essentially both the like Peter Thiel freaks, which a lot of them are more like Israel-tied people, and the MAGA freaks, the Christian nationalist freaks, which are more Russian-tied people, they had the same initial goals, right? And so similar to like the enemy of man, me as my friend. So they were working parallel to each other for a period of time. And now there is a drastic and dramatic split happening because from here forward, they have two different pathways that they're interested in walking. And either one of the factions is going to win or they're both going to splinter and stop completely. I mean, who knows, right? I don't know. I shouldn't claim to know because I think, again, things are moving so quickly now that all I can tell you is that I wouldn't be surprised no matter what happened. No matter what happened. You know, every other day is something out of left field, isn't it? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Just to give you a little slightly more lighthearted, actually, let's get one more heavy headline out of the way, and then we'll talk about two that are not as heavy. So Supreme Court, unfortunately, has decided to uphold the no gender affirming care for minors. So it's a very explicitly anti-trans bill. I know that, you know, they're calling it, there's people that are accurately pointing out that it's unconstitutional. I don't think that this court system gives a shit, dude. All right, one more very dismal headline, but it's important to tell you guys this. That Adriana Smith, who was the young black woman who who had a medical emergency during her pregnancy that the hospital refused to treat because she was pregnant. She needed, I believe she had like an aneurysm or something, and they were worried about the risk to the baby, so they literally just let her die. And then they kept her body kind of alive with the very early the pregnancy was extremely early. I have a hard time talking about this because it's so gruesome. The whole thing is so gruesome. They kept her body alive, and what people are saying is that her body kind of started to fall apart and decompose because she had no brain activity. They delivered the baby this week. Obviously, her body couldn't participate in the delivery. The baby is only 1 pound, and it was born blind. The potential life that baby could have is so terrible. It's just, again, something has to give. Something has to give. Because we don't want to do this anymore. Women don't want to do this anymore. The world actually doesn't want to do this anymore. Even men don't want to do this anymore. The men might be fighting for supremacy in a lot of cases, but they're giving up. Like, they're not even trying. Younger people are cashed out. They're not participating, and we're not going to just sit here and watch this stuff happen to women and just be okay. Like, people are going to stop having kids. Actually, the numbers of people who are entirely celibate and just not dating are drastically increasing. The numbers of people that are seeking out permanent solutions to, like things like hysterectomies and getting their tubes tied, and, that's what's coming if we don't change all of this. We're not going to just allow ourselves to be re-enslaved by psychos. So anyway, horrible. I'm sorry to be delivering this news because it is honestly one of the most gruesome stories I've ever heard, to be honest with you. So I don't even know how to transition into anything else after that. But Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket exploded this morning. And he is having like the worst year of his life. There's sort of like word on the street is that he got sober briefly. Figment, please. So he cleaned his system out long enough to be able to pass a P test. And he has been dead silent, which is an interesting combination. And it just makes me wonder, like, how much of his ranting and raving over the last few years has been drug induced. Not saying that I think if anything, it's just an amplification of what's already in his heart and mind, to be honest with you. But I do think it's interesting that he's been dead silent while he's been cleaning himself out. And I'm sure he probably honestly is doing at least a small amount of reflection because he really blew his life up with his Trump feud recently. Only because his entire life revolved around Trump and MAGA. The last little piece of information I'll give you is that the TikTok ban, Trump extended the TikTok ban for another 90 days to September 19th, which is interesting because it's totally illegal. The initial TikTok ban allowed the president of the United States, which at the time was, I think, Biden, to extend it for one 90-day period, at which point there had to be a resolution, or they could do like an emergency extension of an additional month or something. Anyways, we're like way outside that. This is now the third extension, and he's just going to keep kicking the can down the road. China's not going to do a deal with us. Now, I mean, we're making our bed that we're going to be lying in, and things are going to be even worse between the US and China because of what the US is doing with Iran. Anyways, long story short, TikTok is still very much alive and kicking. Not that you guys probably give a shit. If you're here, you probably aren't even really on TikTok. I've been very active on TikTok because the headlines are popping off like literally every hour. And I feel like this is the most consequential thing that has happened. Honestly, it's more consequential than Trump's election because yes, Trump's election is what tipped this off, but now for the well-being of the world, what happens next is possibly the most important thing that's happened in 100 years or more, because this will push the world. It will usher in a new world order. And I don't mean that the way that like crazy people mean it. I mean, it will topple the current world order. And I don't know what that looks like. I just know that like it will be a world war that will split, again, China, Russia, Iran, UK, US, and Israel, and then falling on either side, like whoever, other countries will inevitably take sides, and then we have a bunch of old crazy people with dementia pulling the trigger. So good luck out there. I'll see you guys tomorrow, or whenever I see you. Whenever I can manage to sit down in a chair and do this again, I'll do it.